Maybe it does mean. Maybe it might.
Right.
Maybe it might.
This fight is so close. They're so closely knitted that you got to look for all the small pieces because the small things are what going to add up to somebody winning the fight.
And fight a guy who might put him in a dog fight, a real one, for the first time in his career.
When we get put in that position, we go find opposition to make that happen. You understand me? So when we go looking for the opposition, we're not concerned about how big they are, how fast they are, how strong they are. We feel like we got enough that we can bring to the table with anybody.
But skill for skill, as far as equality, to me, Bud and Canelo are equal because when they had their career.
The thing I like about Teo's style, I mean, when you have a guy like Shakur whose defense is that good, and he's not just a guy who's going to hug you, he can box, you know. The easiest thing in the world is just to pick him against everybody.
Right.
Yes.
But Teo also has the kind of footwork, Malik.
Roy Jones Jr. and Max Kellerman break down this massive clash between Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez, diving deep into what separates real champions from everyone else. They're talking about heart, mental toughness, and that killer instinct that makes fighters willing to step up against anybody. Max gets into the stakes here, pointing out how Shakur's got way more on the line as the undefeated guy, while Teofimo could absolutely explode his career with a statement win on the sport's biggest stage.
Fighter. He's seen as the eventual pound-for-pound champ, potentially. But Teo has more to win. He has more to gain. So on the one hand, is there an advantage there where Shakur is fighting to protect that perfect record, to protect that kind of sense that he's the next guy? On the other hand, Teo is like he can fight with more abandon against Shakur because there's so much for him to gain. And if he loses, he's lost before. He's lost to Kambosos, and he came back from that. But oh my God, if he can pull it off. Like, if it's a close fight and Teo could keep it close and we're going into the 10th, 11th, 12th rounds, is there an advantage there given that situation?
He came back from that Kambosos fight, but in some way, the jury is still out on Teo a little bit because I'm going to tell you what, on that card that was done in Times Square, he looked the best out of, with all due respect, out of a lot of people that...
Roy draws some interesting parallels, comparing this matchup to something like Canelo versus Crawford in terms of the power balance. But when you strip it down, Shakur versus Teofimo becomes this pure technical battle where every little detail in their skill sets will determine who walks out victorious.
That's a good damn fight, too. See, that fight is skill for skill as good as this fight. But they just haven't been around long enough to prove themselves yet. But skill for skill, as far as equality, to me, Bud and Canelo are equal because when they had their career, because how accomplished they are. These two guys are also equal when they have their career, because they're accomplished, but not as accomplished as these two. But they're still equal accomplished. You understand me? So those are two good damn fights and what boxing is.
Max breaks down Teofimo's movement, and honestly, it's impressive stuff. The way he glides around the ring, constantly shifting angles and controlling space, while slipping shots with that high boxing IQ and ring awareness that keeps him one step ahead.
I don't think that was the best version of Teo by a long shot. But even then, he was rallying in that fight late. Yeah. He has championship heart. And the thing I like about Teo's style, I mean, when you have a guy like Shakur whose defense is that good, and he's not just a guy who's going to hug you, he can box, you know? The easiest thing in the world is just to pick him against everybody.
Right.
Yes.
But Teo also has the kind of footwork, Malik, where he steps around guys. And I think about Buddy McGirt, Meldrick Taylor.
Yes.
Roy, you know, where Meldrick had quick enough feet where if you were going to come right at Buddy McGirt, he could box you. But Meldrick could give him angles that were more difficult.
Think Roy Jones meets James Toney in terms of confidence and readiness. Teofimo's locked into this zone where his mindset is dialed in perfectly for this moment. He knows boxing lives in your head first, and he's built that mental fortress through countless hours of repetition, laser focus, iron discipline, and developing that automatic muscle memory.
Are you mentally prepared with the audience? Are you mentally going to be prepared with the certain punch selection? There's things that I have to maintain as well. Those are things that I have to work on within myself. It's a muscle. I think of it like condiments, right? You got your ketchup, you got your mustard, you got all these type of condiments, but you don't know if you like it or not unless you try it. And I think the same thing applies when it comes to getting prepared for certain things like this. Pretty much you have to try different things, different steps, different routines, different ways to see what really fits and works for you. And if they all fit and work for you, when is the right time to apply them? And it's a muscle memory that you have to create now. If you don't create now, it can harm you the day of the fight. The mentality part of it is going to really be the key moment for who wins that night. I'm that type of person, truly, that type of person that focuses on being perfect.
Over at training camp, Shakur Stevenson remains completely dialed in, pouring everything into each session. He's fine-tuning every aspect of his game, perfecting his movement patterns, and getting his mind and body synchronized for forts coming his way.
Right at that chest. It's coming. It's coming.
That was 9 rounds of sparring. I ain't gonna tell y'all the minutes, but yeah, I'm preparing to my fullest. I'm putting in a lot of work and getting ready. Sure. Training with Shakur is amazing. A guy like me been knowing Shakur for over 10 years now. The boxing world know that we brothers and we'll never fight each other. And just being around him in his camp, man, it's nothing but positive energy. And everybody wanting to be great. He's like my big brother, man. Like, he is my big brother, honestly. You know, he got all the wisdom in the world, especially when it comes to defense. So he's just making sure I stay sharp on my defense and not getting hit.
Wade jumps in as the host to emphasize why this fight is pure gold for boxing fans everywhere. Both of these guys could have taken easier paths, picked softer opponents, but instead they're creating something truly special by facing each other. These kinds of elite versus elite battles unlock doors to even bigger opportunities down the road. Even if one of them takes the loss, the exposure from competing at this level pays dividends for their entire career.
And experience. I think this is what people don't realize about making best versus best fights. For the most part, only good can come from this. I'm going to knock on wood when I say that because I don't want to have one of these fights where we get a stinker performance or anybody. But when the pressure is this high, when the stakes are this high, and you get this kind of opportunity, it will compound interest, even sometimes for the loser as well. This is why you look at MMA and you look at the UFC, and they have guys with 10 losses, 5 losses, 12. Some people that you would never think are going to compete for a championship, and maybe they don't even compete for a championship, but they're in interesting fights that people want to watch. Doing fights like this makes Teofimo Lopez, makes Shakur Stevenson a bigger name, and therefore, after this fight,
Wade compares it. Look at MMA and how the UFC operates, where fighters can have multiple losses on their record, but still build massive followings and stay in exciting fights that fans can't wait to watch. These high-stakes battles keep the audience hooked and build that anticipation because when Teofimo steps up against someone like Shakur, both of their profiles get elevated regardless of the outcome. After a fight like this, both fighters gain serious recognition and set themselves up for those blockbuster opportunities that define careers. Fans show up because they know they're about to witness elite-level competition where everything matters.
Meaningful and influential.
I love that type of stuff because what Teo's saying is true. Like, for him to go to the next level in his career, and for Shakur as well, they need to be tested, and they have been, especially Teo. Teo's taken some tough fights. He's beaten Vasily Lomachenko, beaten Josh Taylor, beaten Arnold Barboza. Like, these are tough, Sandor Martin was a tough test as well. But my point is, this is how you get better. And this is why it frustrates me that guys won't take tough fights until they're 25-0 sometimes. And he's talking about Shakur's lateral movement, talking about how good he is as a boxer. This is, again, win or learn, in my opinion. Not that the stakes don't matter, not that wins and losses don't matter, but how are you ever going to really show your talent level if you aren't competing with the best? And Shakur has the same opportunity. This is Shakur's toughest test, no doubt about it. The Williams-Zepeda fight was a tough test because of the style of fight that Zepeda brings, but Zepeda is not the boxer that Teofimo Lopez.
Sean Porter keeps it simple and direct, saying Shakur is going to be Shakur, which really captures both the consistency and unpredictability that makes this young fighter so fascinating. Come fight night, you never know exactly which version will show up from either Shakur or Teofimo Lopez. But you can count on Shakur bringing his unique blend of style, technical ability, and that intensity that defines every one of his ring appearances. Porter looks back at Shakur's recent performance, remembering how he read his opponent perfectly, took his time to figure things out, then gradually seized control of the entire fight. Even with people throwing around that tired criticism about running, Shakur made the choice to plant his feet and trade more than usual, showing both his courage and strategic thinking. This willingness to take calculated risks, even eating some shots he didn't need to, really demonstrated his supreme confidence and disciplined approach. Porter makes the point that this style doesn't just prove Shakur's pure talent, it actually grows his fan base in a meaningful way.
You know, we gonna always Shakur gonna always be Shakur. The offense that we saw from him in his last fight was just, he knew what he had in front of him, and eventually he knew that he was going to be in a position where he could have his way with the kid who was in the ring. I'm losing his name off the top of my head.
Right, I know you're talking about. But I believe he fought that way because he started hearing all the call of him running. He started saying, you know what? Let me stay in the pocket, because he stood in the pocket a lot more than he normally stood in the pocket with that fight. You know what I'm saying?
And took some unnecessary shots.
Huh?
And took unnecessary shots.
Well, okay, right.
Mm-hmm.
But you see what kind of fan base he got after that too. The doubters started saying, you know what? I'm gonna roll with him more.
Critics who used to question his approach started giving him respect, finally understanding his determination and ring intelligence. Shakur's gift for staying true to his core style while adapting to whatever the moment demands shows exactly why he's viewed as one of boxing's most electrifying young talents, someone who can handle the biggest pressure situations and earn props from both fans and experts.
Mayweather did his last 10 fights damn near. You know, like,
Nah.
oh, man. What?
Nah, Mayweather wasn't running, bro. Mayweather was out there putting on master classes. He was
not doing what he was doing when he was pretty boy. He was not bringing it to him. Come on.
Them hands was like skeleton hands by then.
Okay. Whatever the reason was. I went with the eye test. Man.
So
when you go ahead.
So when it comes to Shakur and Teo, I feel like if it's not if Teo's not fighting someone that's being aggressive, pressing him a little bit, he taps out. And I feel like Shakur is not going to trade the way he did in the last fight, because he knows he's going up in weight and Teo has power, obviously. So I believe that this is going to be one of those fights where he kind of fights on the outside, frustrates him a little bit. I expect it to be a fairly boring fight.
Mikey Garcia dives into this massive Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez showdown, describing it as the kind of fight that has boxing fans absolutely buzzing with anticipation. He gives both fighters their due credit, but really focuses on that wild card element that Teofimo brings to every fight. Some nights, you get the version of Lopez who absolutely dominated Lomachenko, and Taylor looking like an unstoppable force with world-class skills, but then other nights, he can look completely different. That inconsistency factor is really the biggest question mark going into this battle. Garcia breaks down how taking on someone like Shakur Stevenson is never going to be simple work. Stevenson's technical mastery, lightning speed, and ability to adjust on the fly make him a nightmare matchup for anyone, no matter their size or how much experience they bring.
Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, big fight coming up pretty soon. What do you think about that matchup?
What's up, bro? How you doing, man? Great to see you, brother. Always good to see you, man. Happy New Year. You too. We love you.
Great matchup, tough fight. I want to see what Teofimo shows up, because sometimes it's Teofimo, sometimes it's Teofimo, the great fighter who beat Lomachenko, who beat Taylor. That's a tough Teofimo. But then we've also seen him, in off nights.
Right.
And so that's kind of the only doubt, the only question that I have. Which Teofimo's going to show up.
What do you think he has to do to kind of deal with a guy like Shakur Stevenson? How would you approach a fighter like Shakur Stevenson if you were Teofimo Lopez with the attributes that he has?
I would think Teofimo, being that technically he's a bigger fighter, bigger size, he's been at the weight class.
Garcia talks strategy, noting how Lopez has some real advantages in terms of size, having spent more time at this weight class and carrying that extra physicality that could be a factor. If he can use that size the right way, he might be able to dictate the pace and create the openings he needs. But Stevenson's ring intelligence and awareness make this an incredibly tough puzzle to solve. Garcia emphasizes that this represents a legitimate career-defining test for both men, a collision of skill, power, and strategic thinking that could reshape their legacies and have fans around the world glued to their screens.
Shakur Stevenson's so fucking good at what he does. Defense is on point, speed is on point, footwork's on point. And I mean, he's really one of the best skilled fighters out there. So it's hard to say, oh, this is what you gotta do. No, it ain't easy, trust me. But being Teofimo, again, if he's bigger, naturally stronger, then he should try to use that, to his.
Mickey Bay gets real about the mindset, focus, and pure love for boxing that drives these fighters at the highest level. Bay explains that while someone like Tank Davis might have a shot against Shakur if he could drop him a couple times, beating Teofimo requires a completely different level of preparation and commitment. What separates Shakur is that dedication and laser focus that define everything he does. Bay emphasizes how Shakur lives and breathes the gym life, always training, always locked in, and completely aware of what he can do when those lights come on.
Nah, unless Tank, if Shakur get dropped once or twice and he still get up and win, maybe, but nah, if Shakur win this fight against Teo, I don't see it happening. I would love for it to happen. Tank got the talent. I mean, that's a good fight to me. I always looked at it like at least close to a 50-50 fight outside of his, Shakur just seemed more locked in and more focused than him. Tank just seemed like he ain't really I don't know, it don't seem like he loved the game right now. So he just got to get his love back for the sport. Even if it ain't the love, because a lot of people could do it without loving the sport. But fighting a dude like Shakur, you got to be locked in, because Shakur is locked in. Like he more locked in than your top.
This kind of total commitment makes him incredibly difficult to solve, similar to how Canelo had such a hard time with a completely focused Terence Crawford. Bay sees Teofimo as this unpredictable element who can be dangerous in big moments, but believes Shakur's genuine love for boxing and mental preparation give him the advantage he needs. He describes Shakur as someone who knows exactly who he is when he steps through those ropes, completely confident in his abilities and always ready to take advantage of any opening that presents itself.
Top, like 99%. He in that small percentage of fighters that just love the sport, and he always in the gym. It's hard to beat a dude like that. That's why it was hard for Canelo to beat Terence. As good as Canelo is and as bigger as he is, Terence locked in. He a gym rat. Shakur's a gym rat. So that's kind of why I give him the edge over Teofimo. It's a good fight. And Teo is like a wild card. You don't know what you're gonna get, but he do step up in them top fights.
Even though the fight could be tight, especially early on, Shakur's discipline, focus, and authentic passion for the sport make him the pick to get it done. He drives home the point that mindset, preparation, and love for what you do are the ingredients that transform good fighters into truly unbeatable champions. Robert Garcia weighs in on this highly anticipated clash between Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez, giving credit to the incredible talent and skill level both fighters possess. He points out how Teofimo has put together some spectacular performances and collected major wins, while Shakur is chasing his fourth title across different weight classes, which would be an incredible accomplishment for someone his age.
Two guys that represent New York and New Jersey respectively, Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson getting together. What do you think about that matchup?
That's a great matchup, man. Both fighters are great fighters, very talented. Teofimo has had some great performances, great wins. Shakur is also a 3-division champion, going for his 4th. Unbelievable talent. It's a fight where we're going to see talent from both, but we also have to see heart. That who has that heart to become.
Right from the opening bell, Garcia stresses that this fight will challenge both fighters' heart and determination. He believes victory will go to whoever fights the smarter fight, makes fewer costly mistakes, and jumps on their opportunities instead of just trying to overpower their opponent. This might not turn into a non-stop action fest, but every single exchange will carry weight, and fans will be holding their breath watching for who connects with the shots that matter most. Garcia notes how both fighters are in their absolute prime and not waiting until later in their careers to make this happen, which makes the whole thing even more compelling. He emphasizes that prime versus prime matchups like this represent everything beautiful about boxing: the skill, strategy, heart, and perfect timing. Fans will truly appreciate this collision because it showcases two elite athletes at the absolute peak of their powers, delivering exactly the kind of fight that deserves attention. The analyst touches on how constant trash talk in boxing sometimes reveals underlying insecurity, mentioning fighters like Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, and Clarissa Shields, noting that while their skills are undeniable, some critics question their finishing power.
Who plays the better cards, and who doesn't make mistakes? Because it's going to be one of those fights where we might not have too much action, but we're all going to be standing up because we want to see who's going to land and who's going to be the one that finds those punches to land. It's a very interesting fight, and they're both in their prime. They're both, that's what boxing is about. We're not Ortiz, Boots, Teofimo, Shakur. They're not waiting till they're 30.
When everything gets stripped away, this fight transcends size, championship belts, or highlight reel moments. This is a pure collision of different mindsets and approaches. Every single voice we heard from arrived at the same conclusion: real champions get built through preparation, courage, and embracing risk when it matters most. Teofimo brings that physicality, slick footwork, and massive upside potential. Shakur brings discipline, ring intelligence, and that steady confidence that gets sharpened every day in the gym. That fundamental contrast creates the magnetic pull that makes this matchup absolutely must-see television.
You look at, what do these fighters have in common? Some people say they don't have a strong punch. So, again, I understand showmanship, I understand trash talk, but you don't want to be the boy who cried wolf. That's the point I'm making. You don't want to be the boy who cried wolf. And I feel like with Shakur, we hear it all the time. Even Devin and Clarissa, the other examples that I gave, we do hear this where it's like, I'm going to knock you out, I'm going to punish you, I'm going to stop you. Devin Haney even made a bet with Ryan Garcia telling him he needs to retire. And they bet, if I knock you out in the first round.
Technically speaking, this becomes as much a chess match as it is a boxing match. You've got power and creative angles on one side facing precision, adaptability, and perfect timing on the other side. One mistake, one perfectly timed shot, or one momentum shift will carry more weight here than in any mismatch between unequal fighters. Multiple analysts reminded us that the more intelligent fighter who limits their errors will probably earn the decision when the final bell rings. That wraps up today's breakdown.
When has Devin been known for first-round knockouts against higher tier, more known names? Same thing with Shakur. And the reason why I say insecurity is because when I look at the biggest punchers that we've seen recently, Gervonta don't really overly do it. He's a real puncher and a real knockout artist, and he don't really play that angle all the time. Like, he'll just be like, just wait. I promise you I'm going to do this. Same thing with Wilder. Wilder, it was eerie, and I've covered several Wilder fights. It was eerie because he would be like, Bermain Stavern, oh my God, to this day, I can't wait. Like, I promise you, I'm about to, almost like I can't wait for fight night.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned until next time. Thanks.